In this video, I'm going to share with you how I think about managing extra cash flow. Once all the bills are paid, debts are optimized, and automation is in place. I think that once you're here, it's about achieving your goals and not just about what looks good on paper, but how you can build a life you want. So when I was in the financial services industry, working with financial advisors, being a financial advisor, oftentimes when you meet with one, step one is, hey, let's get all of your financial data, and then we're going to go behind the curtain and create a plan for you and tell you what you should be doing better. And I don't like working like that. What I like to do is help people understand the landscape, but ultimately get to a place where people are fully automated, then detail what free cash flow looks like and come up with a plan and how to allocate that automatically. So that's what the bulk of this video will be about today. So again, every client is going to be different in terms of their goals and dreams and everything else. And so I can't give specific advice, obviously, on a video like this, but the goal here is for me just to share how I ultimately think about how funds should be allocated in general. Most people will need to split things up to achieve multiple goals, but the amount that goes each of these individual categories will be really different depending on who we're talking about. And if you're new to my channel, I help six-figure families and entrepreneurs break the paycheck to paycheck cycle through a system of financial automation. So if that sounds interesting, please like and subscribe. It does really help the channel, helps me spread this message that there is a better way to manage your money than just budgeting or filling out a spreadsheet every time you get paid for the rest of your life. So let's jump into this topic here. Okay, so I mentioned in the intro here that the goal here is to get fully automated first. So I'm a huge fan of managing everything by automation. So what does that mean? So if you've seen some of my other videos, and I'll link some below that you can check out, but ultimately I've got a process for helping people go from where they are. Maybe you've got debt, maybe you're struggling, maybe you're in a good financial place, but you feel like it takes a big drain of your mental energy and just the effort to every single time you get paid to, reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do that anymore, okay? Automation is super simple to put into place. It does take some time, and then once the system is set up, you kind of take your hands off the wheel and let your money manage itself. And so that's the goal. And so I would say go through, check out my videos on that before you watch something like this. But in this example, this is a quick rundown I'm going to give you of. This is the spreadsheet that every single client fills out before we begin working together, so that I have a 30,000 foot view on their situation so that I can help dial things in. But basically, I'll give you a quick overview so you know what these things are going to, so all of this area will make sense. But ultimately, credit scores are helpful, income, what assets might be in play. We'll come back to this kind of spending concept, the institutions that you have available, credit all these expenses, and then debt, and then any questions and homework. Okay, that's the rough breakdown. So the idea here in this example is that monthly expenses are $8,000. Again, this is pulling down from a previous cell, as well as the income below that, as well as the total monthly spending. So basically in this example, we add those two things together, and that's $10,000 a month. And this is what we're basing everything off of. So when you think about an emergency fund, it's really not about your income as an example. It's really about your expenses and your spending. And so in this example, this family needs $10,000 to live 1 month. If you have $30,000, then boom, that's 3 months of runway that you've gotten. $60,000 is 6 months of runway. Pretty self-explanatory here. So now we want to go down to this area. So again, income is 12, the spending and expenses are 10. So that means we have a positive cash flow amount of $2,000. And so whenever a client fills this out, obviously each of these numbers is going to be different, correlated to those person's individual life and expenses. And so oftentimes people can be very surprised to find out that they have more positive cash flow than they might think on paper. So there's a variety of reasons for that. I'll touch on that briefly. I'm a big believer of having what's called these spending accounts. So a joint his and hers account means these 3 accounts that are at a separate banking institution. They're just checking accounts. It's nothing fancy, but each one has a debit card, and there are different things that we need that we don't have to budget for, because guess what? Every week you're going to have groceries. Every week you're probably going to want to eat out or have some entertainment or have some fun money here and there. And so that's why we build out these categories, not so that you have to stick to the categories, but it's really just a rule of thumb. And so once most people fill this out, weeks after working together, they're not really thinking about how much they're spending eating out. Like, I don't think about what I spend on groceries. I have no idea what I spend on groceries on a weekly basis. I could care less. The reality is I have the money available to me, and as long as I don't overspend, we're good to go. So the concept here again is that clients fill these numbers out together. They figure out what makes sense. Again, in this hypothetical example, we figured that out as $2,000 a month. Again, that means, based on 2,000, 8,000 equaling 10, income's 12, we have a positive cash flow of 2,000. So what happens is, again, if you're familiar with my system, all that income is getting deposited in the kind of brokerage direct deposit, a high yield savings account essentially, where money is stacking up. So income comes in, less income comes out to pay the bills, to pay your spending money, fund these savings goals, etc. But in this example, 2,000 is the number. So once you're at this position where your debt is taken care of, it's been consolidated, you're not paying 30% on credit cards, you're probably having some sort of a loan to consolidate that debt, and you freed up more cash flow as a result. Now, once you're at this place, the first goal is really to get 1 month ahead. The first kind of hurdle before that is this half of that number. So 5,000 is the example here, where we need half a month of expenses and spending and all that to get in this high yield savings account to where we can have permission to then move the direct deposit to this new account. So again, the real goal is getting here. So now in this example, if we're 1 month ahead, now we're looking at the cash flow. So most people that I work with, again, 6-figure families, people that are making, 6 figures, something like that, and they're on the paycheck to paycheck cycle, maybe they've got debt, maybe they realize, hey, I'm making a lot of money, I'm able to live a certain lifestyle, but I'm beginning to see the debt creep up. We don't have a real plan in place to pay off the debt eventually. We don't want to just ride this kind of debt roller coaster for the rest of our life where we pay some off, we get a bonus. Now our bonus just goes to pay off debt or try to, play catch up. When you're at this place, you're able to take the $2,000 a month and come up with a plan. So there's a variety of solutions that we can provide. So for most people, there is some debt to pay off. So maybe a chunk of that would be going to pay off debt. Some of that should be going to investing. Some of that should be going to short-term savings goals. And that can also include another option, which is building the emergency fund. So those are 4 big jobs to do. And one simple example could be, if the number is $2,000, you can just say, hey, we're going to do 25% in each of these categories. So $500 a month that just stays behind in this high yield savings account to continue to build up our cash reserves with the goal of getting to $30,000. Okay, and it's obviously going to take some time to get there. Another $500 can be going to these short-term saving goals, such as planning for, Christmas presents, or going on vacation, or maybe buying a new car, or just home and auto maintenance, some of these goals, or having money for kids stuff, whether that's back to school, whether that's kids camps or sports stuff, whatever, breaking some of that $500 up to fulfill each of these categories over time. Another thing we can do with $500 is putting money into investments, and that could be some going into a taxable account. So what is a taxable account? If you're unfamiliar with the concept, a taxable account is just a regular investment account that doesn't have the tax advantages that retirement accounts have. And so that is helpful because we probably want to have money that we can touch pre-59.5. And so that can just be a regular mutual fund. That can be money that you said, hey, you know what, I really want to buy a rental property in several years, so let me put $500 into this, real estate investment trust or something like Fundrise. You can, earmark money for things like that. And then the last 500 could just be going on additional debt. So I think one of the biggest challenges that people face at a decision point like this is it's very, very tempting to say, well, let me take all of this money and put it on debt. And here's why I think that's a terrible idea. I think people like the Dave Ramsey's of the world say, well, if you've got any positive cash flow, then that obviously needs to go to pay off all of your debt. The challenge is if you're not building up enough savings, because again, I say debt is a symptom of a broken system. The 2 puzzle pieces of the broken system are a lack of savings and a lack of boundaries around spending. In working together, we've already solved the spending issue with step 1. We're solving the savings issue by getting to a place where we're a month ahead, and now we want to continue that growth, not at the cost of all of our goals going by the wayside. And so again, with automation, we're not dependent on our discipline to send all the money to all these places. We literally have a conversation with our spouse, work with me one-on-one, and we figure out where all this money is going to go. Again, this is just a general concept here because a quarter could go to debt, a quarter could go to investing, a quarter could go to short-term saving goals, and a quarter could go to emergency fund. And as you're probably sitting here thinking, if a quarter is going to emergency fund and a quarter is going to short-term savings goals, that's really like 50% is going to building our savings. And that is okay, and that's fine. And again, your situation might be different. You might not have any debt that we need to pay off. You might want to say, you know what, let's winnow that down and maybe just do 30% to all these like building cash, whether it's personal savings and emergency fund, and then put the rest towards investing, because the challenge is that most people are going to be on a debt roller coaster until the day they die, period. Most people, even if you retire a millionaire, are going to struggle getting in and out of debt. So in my opinion, the remedy is we want to be allocating money to these other areas, because if we have savings, we don't have to get into credit card debt. If we're building our investments, we don't have to get into credit card debt. So think about that as you consider your own cash flow positive life. What does it look like? How are you going to allocate these dollars moving forward? And how can automation play a role in making that super simple for you? If you found this video helpful, please like it. Please do subscribe to the channel. I'm making content like this all the time. If you're interested in having a coaching conversation to see if it it makes sense to work together. There's a link in the description below. Give that link a click. Go fill out the form. Apply. I do not work with everyone. I work with people that are typically six-figure families. My average client probably makes, $150,000, $175,000. I work with people, typically around that range, plus or minus, several $1,000s. That are typically having credit card issues. They're struggling with the paycheck to paycheck cycle, realizing that they feel like they've got enough money to do all the things they want to do, but they're just struggling to figure out the methods that's going to work for them. So click the link in the bio, check that out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.